Buckingham Palace says King Charles is returning to public duties after taking time away following his cancer diagnosis in February. The CBC's Abby Quidassin joins me live from London. So, Abby, what's the palace saying?
Andrew, this announcement perhaps an optimistic sign that King Charles's cancer treatment is going well. This news that he's returning and will be participating in public engagements coming just mere days before the one-year anniversary of his coronation. Now, Buckingham Palace announcing today that he's returning to these public-facing duties, but it won't be the usual jam-packed schedule that a monarch would usually have during the summer. Now, the palace also says the events we planned and announced, of course, based on medical advice, and the palace saying that King Charles and Queen Camilla will make a joint visit on Tuesday. That's the Tuesday that's coming up, to a cancer center here in London called the University College Hospital Macmillan Cancer Center, and the royal couple expected to meet with patients as well as staff there. But the palace also making it quite clear that this is not the facility where the king has been receiving his care. But the palace also reiterating that there are no plans at this time to share any specifics about the monarch's condition or his treatment plan. As you know, there has been plenty of speculation since the cancer diagnosis was made public back in February, but there have been no details shared with the British public, except that it isn't prostate cancer, though the disease was detected when the sovereign was receiving treatment for an enlarged prostate. And it has been a difficult time for the family, too, because as we found out just a few weeks ago, when it was made known that the Princess of Wales had also been diagnosed with cancer. She shared that news in a video in March after much online chatter about why she was taking a break from her engagements. But again, King Charles will resume his public-facing duties, according to Buckingham Palace.
Let's talk a little bit more about that, Abby. Aside from the visit to the cancer center next week, what is on the king's calendar?
The palace also confirming now a state visit in late June when the Emperor and Empress of Japan are expected here in London. The visit will take place at Buckingham Palace, hosted, of course, by the British royal couple, and King Charles is said to be looking forward to it. Now, a palace spokesperson saying that the specifics around planning depend on the doctor's advice and that it'll be happening closer to the date of the visit, which has not been pinpointed or made public to us, at least in the release that we have seen. Now, we did see the monarch since we found out about cancer diagnosis. One of those instances is the images that you're seeing now during Easter when he attended church services at St. George's Chapel in Windsor Castle with his wife, Queen Camilla. And the king shook hands and chatted with people after the service, and the palace confirming today that we will see more of him. But again, it won't be the usual jam-packed summer schedule, and they're not going to say at this time whether he'll attend other major royal events like Royal Ascot or D-Day commemorations or Trooping of the Colour, and they'll be making those decisions and telling us about it closer to the dates of those events.
Abby, thank you. The CBC's Abby Quidassin in London. So for more on this, I want to bring in Bonnie Brownlee. She is one of our most trusted royal commentators, and she's joining us from our Toronto newsroom. Bonnie, appreciate you taking the time. So this is good news. It has to be a relief, I guess, to so many people.
Yes, I mean, you know, King Charles has a huge domain that he looks after, you know, with the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth countries. So it's important to the citizens of those nations about how his health is and who's in charge. You know, like, is he actually still running everything? And I mean, it's quite clear that he's been running everything from day one. Even during his illness, he has been always available and holding meetings and still meeting with the Prime Minister remotely, doing virtual calls and meetings. So now we're getting to see him step back into more or less his normal routines.
So I was going to ask you, what message does having the king out and about again in a more public way send to the public, both in Britain and the Commonwealth?
Well, probably a sense of stability, that things are in good order. You know, the family's got a lot going on right now with the issues with the Princess of Wales, and also Sarah Ferguson has had cancer as well. So there, you know, it's not mentally, it's just not a good place for everyone to be. So I think they want to lift themselves out of somewhat of the darkness and start to get back and be seen as functioning as normally as possible. And I think the king, that's what he's doing today. And I think he's also pretty grateful to his wife, Queen Camilla, who has really stepped in over the past month or two and fulfilled a lot of the space that was absent.
Bonnie, what do we know, though, about the state of the King's health right now?
We know that he's in a good place right now, that he's through his treatments. He will start to do as much as he can in terms of events. You know, the doctors will monitor it to make sure he's not overdoing it. What he has disclosed, though, is still limited to very, very close people around him and his doctors. So he may at some point tell us everything, but at this point, while he's healing, it's just a search and a need for privacy.
A search and a need for privacy, but as you mentioned, it's still a trying time for the royal family. As you mentioned, the Princess of Wales, Catherine, is still dealing with her own health issues.
Yes.
So what's the mood in the family or in royal circles?
The mood, I would say from some of the ones that I've talked to, it's like any family. You function, you move forward, you gather, you talk, you chat, you worry. And they're pretty much, that's what they're doing. In many ways, it's probably made the siblings, for Charles, all of them a little bit closer because there's been a lot more communication. The King's been in a very different time in his life where he's actually been spending a bit more time with certain members of his family. So I think that is part of a healing process as well, you know, when you go through something like this. And he's got, 3 grandchildren with Prince William, and Queen Camilla has quite a few grandchildren as well, of which they're quite close to.
I'm sure it's too early to ask you this, but it might be on people's minds. What about a trip to Canada now that the King is back on the mend, or appears to be?
Well, Canada would certainly be a priority for his, not his government, but his reign. So I expect that at some point, probably in the next 12 months or so, we should see them here in Canada.
Bonnie, thank you. That's royal commentator Bonnie Brownlee in Toronto.
Thank you.